Welcome back to Redefine Parenting with your host, Veenu Keller. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Redefine Parenting is a revolutionary approach to nurturing our children. Veenu will bring you live experts, transformative insights, and a fresh perspective, all aimed at helping families worldwide truly understand their children. Together, let's give them a childhood they won't have to heal from. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Redefine Parenting. Tonight, I have a very special guest that I have known for many, many years. And as a matter of fact, this gentleman has helped me to reconnect even deeper with my family, with my dad. And it was just in literally a conversation with him that really opened my heart and opened my understanding to a better relationship with my father. And so because of that, my father and I had a stronger bond, a stronger relationship until the day he died back in 2020. So I was really honored when I asked Anil Gupta to come onto my show and just kind of share his heart and his love and his passion, helping families, helping people to enhance the love that we already have in our life. So Anil, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for the invite. And just one conversation, one sentence can change someone's life. And our mission today is for us to give you many sentences that will change many lives today.
Yes, I look forward to that. And what I love about my show, it's worldwide. We have around 4 million viewers all over the world watching us tonight. So I know that you and my conversation is really going to be able to influence many people around the world. And I know that's one of your missions and purposes too, is to help many people all over the world. So we get to do that tonight. So let's just dive into the conversation that we wanted to talk about. And when I asked you, what do we want to share with the world? And you said, let's talk about the greatest gift we can give our kids.
Yeah, what's the greatest gift you can give your kids? People say, is it love? Is it time? Is it money? No, and this is my opinion. The greatest gift you can give your kids is this: give them the ability to handle life by throwing adversity at them that they can reasonably handle. What I see is a lot of kids are enabled and entitled. They just don't know how to handle life situations. And when they come across adversity, they just don't know what to do. And then unfortunately, they'll start taking action in the wrong direction, drugs, alcohol, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse, looking for the next, numbness. But, if you throw adversity at your kids at a young age, then they will handle the situations, and then you can love them and not have to smother them and protect them. And what happens is that we've been through adversity and we say to ourselves, I don't want my child to go through adversity. But in my opinion, that's a big mistake. I don't know what you think about that, Veenu.
I agree with you 100%. And as a matter of fact, and that's why I've named this show Redefine Parenting. We got to come in and redefine the way that we were parented and our thoughts and our beliefs about it. Because like you're saying is, I see so many parents nowadays that try to rescue their kids instead of support their kids through the challenge. And what happens is that the child never learns resiliency. They learn that they just need to call their parent, call someone to get help. And help isn't bad. I don't want to sit there and say help is not bad. Help is great. And what are we setting our kids up to be after they leave the house? You have older kids, I have older kids. And one of the I was a single mom. I worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. Back when you and I met, actually, I was going through a lot, trying to put food on the table, raise these kids. And I know you and I had a conversation about it. And sometimes I wish that I could be here more, but let me tell you, the gift of me not being here as much is that they learned the independence. They learned how to rely on themselves and to strategize through situations, make mistakes, and get supported through it, versus being able to call me and me come to their rescue and try to solve it for them.
Yeah, and that allows you also to become a parent rather than a caretaker or a helicopter parent, and it allows you to rest and be at peace. Because if you're constantly, hurting and looking after it, there's no peace, and then that affects your health, it affects your relationship, it affects your demeanor, it affects everything, and everybody loses.
Right. Right. And especially now the way the world is turning. I mean, especially after COVID, the world shut down. All of us got in the same household. Parents had to figure out how we're going to work at home. Kids had to figure out how are they going to school at home. There was no more connection outside the home. And now kids have had to learn something different and had to learn how to be resilient through that. And now one of the biggest things I get from parents is my kids spend so much time on screens. They're always on video games. There's not a lot of connection. And yet that's how these kids got connection. It was okay for that period. And now it's not okay. And so again, teaching kids how to face the world outside and stop hiding inside.
Yeah, really. And it starts, I was talking to someone today about what the thing that keeps the entertainment, a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, it's an iPad. And, I look at parents and say, hey, look, my son is 1 year old and he can do this, he can do that. And they're proud of it. And I think, well, no, I don't agree with you. He should be playing, he should be having fun. He shouldn't be exposed to this EMF. He shouldn't be needing to be entertained. I remember my gift for our kids, and we realized that the hair was inside the box, and I thought this is going to save me a fortune. So we just got the boxes. We would go to Costco or Sam's Club, get the boxes, and then we'd do silly things like we would get newspapers and we would cut them up and then we'd throw them up in the air, and it was fun. It allows the kids to think differently and be entertained. Nowadays, the kids have got to be constantly entertained, and then when they don't have that engagement, they get upset, and it's never sustainable. It's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, you brought up something also, is that if we don't allow our kids to have adversity and how to deal with it, that they can go down the wrong path, like drugs, alcohol, different self-sabotage, self-harming behaviors. And I wanted to touch on that because I think that is so true, is that they're looking for the next thing, the next challenge. And I feel like, drugs and alcohol kind of bring that. I mean, I have one client that says that she does it to bring some life to them, right? Some opportunity to do something different because life is so mundane. It's just get up, go to school, sports, and then come home and repeat. And so it brings more excitement, something else into their lives.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't know. It's a different time that we're dealing with. It's a different generation we're dealing with. Just in the last 10 years, I've watched the world change. Coaching kids for as long as I have, the challenges that these kids are having are a lot different from the challenges that they've had before. And a lot of kids can't go to their parents. They love their parents, but some of the conversation, they said, I don't want to have the conversation with my parents because it's always going to turn into a lecture.
Yeah. The mistakes I feel that parents make is they expect the child to come into the adult world, but you have to get into the child's world. You have to sit next to them, see what they're seeing, feel what they're feeling, experience what they're experiencing, what they're fearing, and saying, you know what, I understand why you feel that way, and understand why you've been fighting me. And then it's easier. I did this, never had any adolescent behavior at all. It wasn't a thing we ever contemplated, because we went into their world, and it makes a huge difference.
Right. Because there's less judgment. When we get into our kids' model of the world and we can start to see it through their eyes, it's not about lecturing them how they need to do it and why they shouldn't do it. And to try to, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, to save them from making the mistakes that we made. What if they just need to make that mistake because they have their own lesson that they need to learn in this lifetime, because it's going to take them further, faster in their adulthood if they get that lesson now. and just be there to guide. So what do you suggest to parents? How do you suggest these parents that feel that they must or they have to rescue their kids so it doesn't look bad upon them? They don't get the judgment and they want their kids to do better. What do you think the long-term outcome is for these kids?
Well, it's a big problem because they don't know how to handle life. They don't know how to handle relationships. They don't know how to handle conflicts. So they feel different. They don't belong, and it causes problems in their relationships, in their marriages. If they get married, if they decide to get married, and it causes problems when they have kids, if they decide to have kids. So, and the knock-on effect is exponentially painful. You know, when they're separated, the kids are weaponized, and that causes even more problems because they don't know how to handle that situation. They can't speak up for themselves, and they'll side with the parent that is the most angry and vehement. And whereas they could be the solution, they could show up differently, and if they're only treated differently, if they're only showed a way to handle a situation, like for example with my kids, if they did something wrong, I said, honey, do you realize you did something wrong? Great, I appreciate you being honest. It's the golden rule. Whatever you do, even if you do something really bad, just tell us the truth, and then we'll work it out. And you know, in this instance, I appreciate you telling the truth. If you were the parent, what punishment would you give? And they inevitably would give a bigger punishment than I would give. And I said, honey, I can never punish you, but I want to guide you and nurture you, because this situation may come again. And if it comes again, what would you do? So then when we educate and guide and nurture our kids, they'll start thinking for themselves, so then they won't get into those problems. They won't get into difficulties. Incumbent on us to just not be reactive, be responsive and say, you know, the kids being kids, they didn't have bad intent. And if they did have something bad that they did, you know, break it down for them so that the kid doesn't have the shame and the bad guilt. So it's really communicating.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I think it makes so much sense, especially one of the things that you were teaching your children then, what sounds to me is ownership. It's owning what they're doing, the choices that they're making in their life, owning that, yeah, this wasn't a great decision, or this was a great decision, and having that open conversation with you as their parent to be able to guide them through it. I think that that is amazing. And that's where I feel is a great guide as parents now, is that that's where we want to go, right? That's where we want to be with our kids, because let's just face it, like the world is changing. I mean, you know, I look at the generational gaps and how our generations are so different. You know, Gen X kids are different from millennials and so on and so forth. And they're raised at different times. They're raised with different beliefs and different meanings. I mean, when I was growing up, the idea of electric car, we only saw on TV, like it would never be. And now we have them, you know, to be able to talk like this. Who would have thought that, you know, and now we're here. And so with all this greatness that's come in the world also comes more predators. And I know that parents want to keep them safe. So what would you say to our listeners? How do parents keep their kids safe and yet still allow them enough space to learn what they need to learn?
You know, that's a great question, and it's an important question. And the secret is awareness. You know, you need to teach your kids a level of awareness that other kids don't have, or other people don't have. And it's a muscle. Awareness gives you clarity. Clarity gives you focus. Focus gives you action. Action gives you results. Results gives you momentum, which gives you everything. And if I could share a really great exercise that will increase the level of awareness. So what we would do, we would sit around the dinner table and I would ask my wife, honey, what have you done today that you have not been acknowledged for? So she said, look, I made this amazing meal. No one thanked me. So my son would thank her. My daughter would thank her. I would thank her. Then it would be my turn to say, look, you know, I bought the groceries in. I bought and brought the groceries in. So my wife, my daughter, my son would thank me. Then my son would say something. My daughter would say something. Then the next question is, what act of kindness did you see today? We'd go around the table. What act of kindness did you perform today? Go around the table. What are you grateful for? go around the table. Another question is, what did you see? What did you notice? So one day my son says, Dad, I noticed you picked me up from school. Not every parent picks their kids up from school. And honestly, most kids don't want to be with their parents. I said, son, I'll always pick you up and I'll always give you a hug and a kiss. And if anyone says anything to you, just let them know my dad loves me, because they need to know how to respond. The next question is there anything on your mind? One day my daughter said, Dad, I'm having a problem. Great. She said, what do you mean great? I said, honey, it's great that you told me. Now we can fix it, because if you didn't tell me, we can't fix it. And then the last question is what was fun, magical, exciting about today? Not was there anything, but what was? So you're implying that there was. At the beginning, they may have a little resistance, but the great thing about this exercise was next day, my son, who was 9 at the time, would lead the exercise. So as a leader, he has to be respectful, especially to his sister. He has to be kind. He has to be a leader, a public speaker, confident, a level of awareness, because they're looking for acts of kindness. They're looking for things to notice. So this one exercise, I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, if you do this at home, it will change the dynamic of your family. I've had 2.5-year-olds tugging at their parents' trousers, saying, "Daddy, can we do that exercise? Can we do the gratitude thing?" It's a great exercise, and you can even do it amongst your colleagues. You obviously change the questions. What projects have you done? What have you done that you haven't been acknowledged for? And everyone gets that level of communication at a much higher level, so that when there is a problem, the kids are going to feel very comfortable about coming to you, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
Yeah, it definitely sets the stage of keeping, like I said, that open, safe, and trusting space, is because you're inviting the questions. There's no judgment about the questions. And, I've always told parents is that, are you having a meaningful conversation with your kid? And most people can't remember the last time they did, but they definitely can remember the last time they had conflict with their kids or their partners. And I think this exercise, which is beautiful, by the way, is a way of inviting conversation, because back in the day as a busy mom, I would say to my kids, how was your day? They say good. And I'm like, okay, good. There's no conflict. Okay. What do you want for dinner? And I thought it was like a pass, that there was no problems to solve. So that's not one more thing I had to do. Right. And now, because I have younger kids again, how was your day? It was good. What was good about it? Is there anything going on in your life right now that I could support you on? Was there any challenges that you see today? So again, just different questions to make the conversation more meaningful, so your kids know they can come to you. They know that you are open to receive whatever they need to say without the judgment, that they don't need to be scared of you. It's not going to be a lecture, and not to be seen as a lecture, because I think that, when kids see they're going to be in trouble or they're going to get lectured, they don't want that. They want someone to really hear them, to understand them. And it's like I tell couples that I work with is, sometimes your wife just wants to vent. She doesn't want you to fix it. And sometimes she wants you to support her in fixing it. So finding out what it is, and same thing, are you here to vent, or do you want me to support you in it? And honestly, that has really changed a lot of the dynamics with the families I've worked with, just by the parents saying that to the kids. Because number one, the kids are like, what? Like, you're literally going to just let me talk about my day and you're not going to judge me for it? And it's a relief to these kids. It really is a relief.
Yeah. And, they feel accepted. When I'm coaching parents and I ask them, what do you say when you pick up the kids? And they said, how was your day? And I said, no, don't do that. Ask them what was great, what was magical, what was fun about today. And as you pick them up, have their music on. Not your music, have the music that the kids like, so that as soon as they get in the car, they're in a great state. They're happy, they're playful, and you can make it fun, because most kids, when they come in the car, they're miserable. And honestly, we're responsible for that, because they see us miserable. But if they see us as fun, they're going to be bouncing up and down, and it's going to be so much more joyous. And then they're going to be talking to you, and things happen. And the definition of love is acceptance. Accept them as they are. When they were very young, they could do anything and you never complained, but they reached a certain age, and then you had an expectation, you had an attachment, and you had a judgment. And that's when things go wrong.
Yeah, I love that. And what I hear you saying, Anil, is definitely we forget that we need to create that rapport with our kids instead of just assuming, oh, we're their parents, they're going to talk to us. It's how do we create that environment? And I love that. Like I let my kids definitely, well, my daughter definitely likes to choose the music in the car in the morning and in the afternoon because my son doesn't really care, but she does. And so we play the music that she wants to hear. Another thing that I do is in the morning when I take them to school, I ask them, what kind of day are you going to have? And they have different colorful words that they use. And then I ask them, what does that look like to you? So it's not just, I'm going to have a good day. What does a good day actually look like to you? Oh, I'm going to have an outstanding day. What does an outstanding day look like to you? And then we start to add more words to it. I'm going to have a fun day. I'm going to have an exciting day. I'm going to have a kind day. And just asking them to describe what that looks like. And then I check in with them and say, and I just presuppose, so how was your kind day today? What was exciting about it? What did it look like to you? Did you accomplish it? And, it's funny because now they'll ask me, Mom, what kind of day are you going to have? And I'll tell them and I'll say productive. Well, what does that look like to you? Because kids model what they see and what they hear.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, I want to share something. I was working away one day and my son said, Dad, you lied to me. And I thought, wow. I said, wow, son, I'm flabbergasted. I've got a very high level of integrity. And I could have got upset with him. What are you talking about? And I said, okay, let's see here. This is the dad. Sometimes you'll say you'll come and play in half an hour, but you take over an hour. And I thought, wow, he's right. But doesn't he know who I am? I've got these important clients to serve. I said, no, son, you're right. I apologize. Please forgive me. But now I'm a lot more careful. From then, I was a lot more careful of what words come out. And I think, if I'm saying that to my son, I'm saying it to my daughter, I'm probably saying it to my wife, I'm probably saying it to my friends. So this is where the awareness comes in, because we can all hold each other accountable, just like your children are asking you, what day are you going to have? And by being held accountable, everybody wins.
Yes. And I love that, setting everybody up to win, and you bring up a good point. It's how many parents want to trust their kids. Like, I don't trust them. I need to trust them. But when I ask kids, if you trust your parents, do you know how many kids tell me they do? Not many at all.
Yeah.
And that might come to, some of our listeners a shock. And if I ask my kids, do you trust me? They're going to tell me to my face, oh, of course I trust you. But have someone else ask them. Because when they feel that there's no repercussion for being honest with how they're feeling, that they're not going to get reprimanded or why don't you trust me? Because I like what you said. You could have said, hey, do you know that I'm doing this? I'm doing my job. Give me some slack. But instead you owned it and then you apologized. And then that in that moment made you aware. So you could do better. Because if you know better, you can do better. And that's what I tell my families all the time. This isn't to shun anybody or shame anybody. This show is literally, how do we make it better? How do we become better parents? How do we produce better kids that produce, but that are going to be better adults going forward in this world? And going back to, what we started this conversation with, the greatest gift we can give our kids is learning how to deal with adversity.
And, if we show up differently, if we speak differently, if we understand differently, and we're open and not reactive but responsive, it makes everybody's life easier. We produce amazing citizens that will change the planet. We have beautiful relationships as we grow older. There's no resentment. A lot of the work I do, there's resentment for the kids and the parents, and it's normally the father. A lot of clients have daddy issues. And it's so painful, in a relationship, you sort of expect to divorce from your partner, but you never expect a divorce between you and the kids. And that's the most painful scenario. And this way you can be at a much deeper level and in fact improve your relationship with your partner, and your capacity to love and be loved increases. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win.
Right. Well, you said that there's a lot of people with daddy issues. So for our listeners, can you go a little bit deeper into that and explain what it is that you're seeing and how you're helping people to kind of resolve that?
Yeah. Kids are growing, the mum's rush, so she's always kind and loving and not disciplinarian. The father tends to be the disciplinarian, and also as kids are growing up, they're always seeking acclaim and being patted on the back and acknowledged. And the mother's very good at that, but the father doesn't give his acclaim so readily. So they're always striving to look for it. And when they don't get it, they try harder and harder. And then that becomes resentful as they grow up. The father, is trying to do his best. He's working hard, and he feels he's doing the right thing. But there's a big cost, and it's just a matter of slowing down, spending time with the kids, acknowledging them, and encourage. And the way out of it is forgiveness. Forgiveness is the express path to freedom. The quality of your life is dependent on the depth and authenticity of the forgiveness you extend to yourself and to others. And once the can forgive their parents, that realizing that dad wasn't trying to hurt them, that was the way he was brought up, to show no emotion, to be the man, to be the masculine man, and not to show his emotions, and not to be like the mother. And that he was brought up. It's not brought. There are two parts to your dad. There's your mum, her behavior. There's your dad, and there's his behavior. You can love the dad. You don't necessarily have the behavior. And once you realize that, you can let go of the behavior and love the dad.
That is so true. And again, it's really seeing our parents. And, I like what you said earlier about love being acceptance. When people feel loved, they feel accepted. They feel a belonging. They feel their worth with that person, and when there's unconditional love, there's nothing that you need to do to create it. It's given. And I feel like when you say separate the person from the behavior initially, it's see the person for who they are. And that's when you love them unconditionally, because there's no conditions of their behavior or what they did or didn't do to create that love and that acceptance.
And, if you have a child that's going through some difficult times, you may not, somebody may have said something to, or and by doing that dinner exercise, that sort of scenario is going to be picked up very early.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also think that, to understand our parents are doing the best that they can. Because like the example you gave, that father grew up thinking that's how he had to be a father, because that's how he loves his family, to provide, to be the unemotional one, because that's mom's job, not mine. And so when we start to realize we could take off the blame and the shame, and we can just love them for who they are and what they are giving us.
Yeah, we tend to do things for us, and that's the way that. And if you think, he used to do that, and that's the way he showed love. So he would show love in a way that he thought he needed to show love. So every father is different. Ostensibly, that's the case.
Right. I also think like one of the key things with parenting is taking off the shame and blame. And number one, showing ownership for yourself to your kids. Because again, what we role model for our kids is what our kids tend to pick up and emulate. And so if we're showing ownership, like the example you gave where you said, you know what, I'm sorry, you're right, I've done that, I'm going to do better. You give kids permission to also show ownership for their behavior, for what they're doing, because let's just face it, all of our behavior is a way that we communicate. It's wanting something or it's releasing something. And so if we're aware of that, then we're open to having a better conversation with our child.
Yeah, not just better, but as you said earlier on, meaningful and connectedness, and that impacts the emotional state that they're in, and it's all connected. There's so much at stake, and you know how they handle situations at school, with colleagues, with friends, conflict resolution. It's all connected.
So going back to the original, what you said about giving the greatest gift is allowing your kids to go through adversity. A lot of issues come up with school, and I'm sure you've heard that too. Like kids aren't getting the right grades, and then they get the parents start yelling at them, and you're not doing good, and all this other stuff that they say. What would you say to parents out there that have that struggle with their kids and their grades?
Well,
That's a big.
I had as you may have guessed, but I'm Indian, so all Indian parents want their kids to get really high grades, and I was no different. But I would get a tutor for my kids, and then one day I realized my son was enjoying it, and what am I doing? I had a big epiphany, it's a huge avalanche of guilt. I said, oh my God, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to look good. I don't want people to say to me, oh, your son only got 98 out of 100 in that exam. What's wrong with him? I didn't want any of that. And I thought, wow, that I'm doing it for me, not for him. Then I said, you enjoy this channel now. Why don't we cancel it? He said, Dad, are you okay? He said, no, let's cancel it. So I did. And then guess what? He flourished by just letting him be himself. But sometimes we put time constraints on our kids. They have to do this by a certain date, by a certain time. But we all mature at different rates. So, give your kids that. It's a one sentence. Infinite passion produces immediate results. If you know that everything will be well, you're at peace now. And it was just a beautiful blossoming. He blossomed. He found something he was passionate about. He did a lot of voluntary work, and then he GYLS, and he did this. He met some people. He built. So he got it. So, ask yourself, what is the really big outcome you want for your kids? Is it the grades, or is it you want them to be happy? It's supposed to be you want them to be happy, but we expect them to be this. Be with the face.
I was teaching a class today, and that's what I said. I said, here's a dose of reality. My twins are 11. I have 7 more summers with them. Like really, I have 7 more summers until they're 18 and they're making some of their own decisions. And it's a reality hit. But I like what you said, because, I was telling some of the families that are very strict about their kids' grades. I said, can I ask, what kind of grades did you get in 4th grade? And the parents look at me, they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, oh, what was your GPA in 7th grade? And they're like, I don't know. Oh, do you know your GPA when you were a freshman or a sophomore? Well, no. I said, do you know your GPA when you went to college? Has anybody asked you, now that you have your degree, what your GPA was in high school? And they're like, well, no. I said, so why are we putting so much emphasis on GPAs on kids when nobody really cares? I have a degree in psychology and I graduated with honors. No one has ever asked me if I graduated with honors. No one's ever asked me that. No one's even asked me if I graduated. Matter of fact, being a coach for as long as I have, no one's ever asked me if I'm even degreed. Nobody cares.
Yeah, it's just results. That's all people care about.
Absolutely. And I'll share this. When I remember when my oldest son, who's now almost 30, he was graduating high school, and I was so excited he was graduating. And I'm like, okay, what college are we going to go to? And he's like, college? I'm not going to college. I'm like, no. We're Indian. We all go to college. Like, this is a non-negotiable. And he said, I'm not going. And I was like, no, but you are going. And he's like, well, I'm 18 and I'm telling you I'm not going. And that was like a huge newsflash to me. But guess what? He didn't go. He became a welder. He got certified in it. He has a beautiful job that he loves to do. He has a family. He has another son on the way. And he's happy without college. It's amazing when we take that away, that pressure.
Yeah, and you know, if you look at college graduates, they're not any smarter, they're not any happier, and they're certainly a lot poorer. And a lot of them can't get jobs. So, you know, especially in this day and age, because things change very quickly, you need the practicalities of being able to be adaptable to, you know, the changing environment with AI, with the world, with the economy, you know, with innovation. So you've got to be alive and vibrant on your feet.
Absolutely. But I like what you said. Most parents, again, they're using it as a measurement tool if they're a good parent, if they did it right, if they, you know, what their kids are doing is a reflection of who they are. But I'm going to tell you, my kids have made a lot of different choices that were not great. They've had natural consequences for it. We've been able to talk about it. And I'm still who I am. And I know how I raised my children with love and respect. And they still made choices as they got to be an adult because that was their path. And I share this with people and they're like, oh, I can't believe your kids. I'm like, what can't you believe? That they made a choice and they had their consequences and they've had their learning. And I'm going to tell you, some of the things I've asked my kids is like, what did you learn from it? And what are you going to do differently?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You know, I see very few parents do that. They're so concerned about what other people are going to say and how they're going to look in this society and being criticized. And at the end of the day, they're your kids. As long as it's not hurtful, you know, they can make mistakes. And in a way, it's good to encourage them. I remember once I used to reverse psychology. My son said to me, hey, I'm going to join the tennis team. And I said, oh, you'll never make the team. Guess what? I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but he made the team.
You know, sometimes they just need that competitive, like, well, I'm going to show you I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a way that we can show our kids, you know, and I think communication is the biggest thing with our kids. They need to know that we're behind them. They need to know that we support them. They need to know that whether they make the team or not, we're still going to love them. Whether they, you know, get straight A's or not, we're going to love them. It's allowing them to know what the standard is that they want to meet versus the standard that we want them to meet.
Yeah, and it's a big thing, you know, when the kids are born, you know, they pee, they poop, we think it's great. Then they get to a certain point, especially start going to school, that's when we have an expectation of them. That's when we start doing a judgment about them. Then, you know, then they have to perform, and the kid's thinking, oh, I used to do that and nothing happened. Now I do that and I get scolded. Or if I do that, it makes them happy. Or if I'm funny, it makes them happy. So then they develop this trait around how to please their parents. But it's really, it's not them being themselves. And it's really sad.
So how do you suggest to our listeners, how do parents allow their kids to just be them and appreciate it?
Yeah, it's really just awareness and see what the trigger is. You know, why are you upset? Are you upset with an expectation that they should be in a certain way, or that they have done something and they didn't do it? And ask yourself, is this something that is worth getting upset over? Is my love for my child my expectation, or what's greater? You know, for example, Veenu, if I asked you, you know, rip off your right shoulder and give it to me, you would never do it. But they give their happiness away over spilled milk. You know, what would happen if, you know, your child spilled milk and started crying? and you got a glass of milk and say, look, I spilled some milk. I'm not crying. So, you can create a new interface, a new languaging. I remember I was on a call once, and a mother, she worked at Disney, and she was working from home, and her 4-year-old kept on coming in the room, every hour or so. She got upset at him, and I said, hey, getting upset at you. What is this? He says, well, why did you have it? Well, and this I said, what if you could reframe this, and that every time he comes in, it's time to take a break? And she said, I never. You can reframe things, you can reset, look at things in a different way, and not get upset. If you do that, the child, and then you don't have that many summers left.
Right. And to miss out on the joy of our kids, because you and I both have adult kids too, they grow up very fast. We don't get a redo. We don't get to take them back to when they were in 10th grade or 5th grade or 3rd grade. It's like those times are gone. And how do we get to enjoy the moments? And I think also another tool or strategy would be presence. Is that when you're with your child or children or partners or whatever, be present with them. Like, I think that's part of the gift that we can give our kids is our presence.
And do you know where parents can learn presence from?
I would love to hear.
This is just came to me right now. It's from the grandparents. What do grandparents do with their grandkids? They're totally present. They're not judgmental. They're easygoing, relaxed, and they just let them be. But they're present. They see the joy in the child's face. I was thinking, I'm guilty. I could have been a lot more present with my kids, but there's stuff going on, but that's no excuse. And just enjoy, like you were saying, your daughter picks some music, and I think, beautiful. In that moment, there's so much joy, and then you look in her eyes and you have that beautiful moment. Yeah, I would give anything to have that back.
Right. I look at that too, and I look at how these kids go through stages, and they go from like wanting to cuddle in your bed to like, oh, do you want to cuddle with me tomorrow? They're like, no, I don't want to lay in your bed. I'm good. I'm like, oh, those times are gone. When they want you to give you that big hug before school, and then it's like, oh, mom, my friends are watching. Don't do that now. And they just go through these stages. And so again, just enjoy it for what it is, be in the moment for what it is. And again, it's, letting them, I always say, let your kids fall and cheer them on how to get up. Don't go pick them up.
Yeah.
And that's the best analogy I can give it.
And just be careful of the languaging. I remember sitting in a park once, and there was a father and a couple of kids. And in one sentence, if I do that, it's too dangerous. Be careful, you'll hurt yourself. This, and in one sentence, and you're putting that to your kids. Life is dangerous. You're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that. So be careful of the languaging that you use in front of the kids, because they'll pick it up.
So what can people say and say? Because I know that there's a lot of people that say, well, we're not supposed to say this, we're not supposed to say that. So what would they want to tell their kids so they take more precaution and they're more aware of their surroundings? Because kids don't have the sensory acuity that us adults have. So how do we set our kids up to be safe without telling them you're going to hurt yourself, or, you need to do this so you're safe, or whatever?
Oh, this is a great question. Again, if you've been doing that dinner exercise, level of awareness goes up. But again, it's asking them a great question. So say we go to the park. So I say, Ajay, we're in the park. What do you notice? And then he'll say this. I said, do you see that? Do you see that? And I say, what could possibly go here? What else could go wrong? How else could things get bad? You know, so he's skating. He could fall down. Yeah, he could do. And is he wearing pads? He's not wearing pads. So do you think he should wear pads? He should wear pads. So, and then do you look at anything that's strange? Like, this is, are there any people here without children? Is there someone who looks suspicious? Is there something that doesn't look right? You train them and teach them this various scenarios. You know, for example, you say to, what do you see? You see a blue, but I see a black. So you let them experience viewpoint and create curiosity for them. And curiosity is one of the greatest gifts you can give your kids, and it'll give them the ability to think differently, analyze situations, and handle situations.
I love that, because it also teaches them that, what we call that sensory acuity, allowing your senses to be, you know, acute to what is around you, not just your eyes. Like, what are you feeling? What are you smelling? Like, being really aware of your surroundings. And it's teaching them awareness versus teaching them, I got you, I'll protect you. You don't have to be aware of the world, because I'm aware of the world, so you don't. And, you know, it goes back to what we said. That's part of the adversity in life. Like, if we could teach them to be aware now as a child, what are they going to be doing as an adult? Their awareness is going to be heightened. They're going to know what they need to do for themselves. And that's the other thing, is, what do they need to feel safe? Not what do you think they need to feel safe. When they become aware of what's going around, what they need.
Yeah. And, you know, ask them questions like, what makes you feel unsafe? What makes you scared? What's great about you? What do people think is great about your greatness? If there's something that you would like to do, what would you do? Ask them these questions, because they want to say it, but they've been told to be quiet. Well, but, you know, they've got great gifts inside of them. There's so much greatness in your kids somewhere. Let's get out of them.
Yes. And highlight their greatness, you know, instead of always focusing on what they're not doing or what they're doing wrong. Lift up what you do see right in them, what they are doing right, and how you appreciate that, and allow their strengths to overflow their weaknesses.
Yeah, so true. So true. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. There's a little bit of lag, but we're good.
Okay. So, you know, so for example, you've got a kid and he's got really good at this. He's not at math. The parents and the school will focus on the math. They won't focus on the greatness. And I think I think that's ludicrous. Just let him pass the math, but focus on his greatness. Focus on the gift that he has, instead of the pain here. And then he's going to let that go, because that's easy for him. He's just going to let that ride, but you're not generating, you're not greatness. It's energy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So we have one more minute, and you have so much greatness and so much knowledge to share with families. Is there anything else that you'd want to leave our audience all over the world with, just to tie this all together about giving their kids that greatest gift?
So here's all parents, human beings, so many ignored, and if you are ignored, it doesn't matter, because how you show up will be this magnificent parent, magnificent child, magnificent brother.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, as I always say to my listeners, it's about being curious and not critical, you know, creating that curiosity within your children, within their lives, because again, kids will model what they see and what they feel each and every day. So thank you so much, Anil, for being here, for giving your heart and, you know, giving your love to all our listeners. This was definitely lots of golden nuggets here. And just thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Redefine Parenting.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Redefine Parenting with Veenu Keller. Follow her on Instagram at Veenu Inspires. To learn more about Veenu, as well as download her free ebook now, go to www.veenuinspires.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it.